Okay, I'll never forget it. There were 5 seconds left on the clock, and my high school basketball team was down by 1 point. We fouled the other team, so they were on the free throw line shooting a 1-and-1. So we needed them to miss a free throw, then we needed a rebound, and to make a shot in 5 seconds. Sure enough, they missed the free throw. My twin brother grabs the rebound, throws the ball across the court to me, and I drained a shot just before the buzzer sounded. The crowd erupted. I'll never forget it. But we lost the game. Why? Because I actually hit the last second shot before the halftime buzzer, not before the end of the game buzzer. When endings approach, timing becomes more important. Eschatology is the study of the future of the world and the destiny of humanity. That means that conversations about pessimism about the future and optimism about the future depend largely on eschatology, our beliefs about the future. The problem is that there is a lot of disagreement in the church about what will happen before, during, and after the second coming of Jesus Christ. And my goal is not to argue for any one of those interpretations. But I think that it is time we have a conversation about the role that the pessimistic eschatologies have played in causing the church's image problem. The pessimism that chilling predictions of future terror and apocalypse has led Christians to become militant. It makes us bunker down, huddle up, and prepare to fight. That's why I think that it's important that we have discernment in the way that we talk about the future. Discernment like the discernment that John had in Revelation 10. In a world tempted to publicly share every thought that we have on social media, it seems crazy to think that John would keep private a revelation from God. But in Revelation 10, John did just that. He said, "And when the 7 thunders spoke, I was about to write, but I heard a voice from heaven say, 'Seal up what the 7 thunders have said and do not write it down.'" Don't click the tweet button, he says. In this world, we are not going to know what John heard in that revelation. But I think the discernment itself can teach the church a beneficial lesson. The message of the 7 thunders probably didn't reveal whether or not the Left Behind theology is accurate. But God apparently didn't want us to know what the revelation said. And doesn't the command not to write down a revelation seem odd? Especially because in another place, John was ordered to write down whatever he saw. But just as he is about to click the send button, God says, "Don't do it." There are people who believe in the theologies that lead them to believe that there will be an inevitable decline of Christianity, to believe conspiracy theories of an antichrist around every corner, or to believe that graceful evangelism will never actually evangelize the world. And people who believe in those theologies are given the opportunity to copy John's restraint. One eschatology that I believe should be shared only with extreme caution is premillennial dispensationalism. That's the Left Behind theology. It's the version of premillennialism that includes a 7-year period of tribulation between the second coming of Jesus and the millennium. Is it possible that dispensationalism is an accurate interpretation of biblical prophecy? Yes. But because we can't be sure, and because dispensationalism has a tendency to lead people to negativity, we need to have restraint in teaching it as absolute fact. As we've said before, there is a crucial connection between what a person believes about the future and how they act in the present. So a Christian's eschatology affects his mission effectiveness. And when a theology has as many diverse theories as eschatology, we'd be very wise to admit that the theory that we think is right is very possibly wrong. If the church is able to leave their minds open to the optimistic interpretations of prophecy, it will be more likely to take advantage of the benefits of positivity. The Pew Research Center found that 58% of white evangelical Christians say Jesus will definitely or probably return to earth before 2050. Now, even if these people don't know that their prediction of Jesus' soon return affects their outlook on life, it's got to. If a parent doesn't believe that his or her children will be on earth for very long, there is less reason to work to make the world a better place for their kids. I believe advocates of pessimistic theologies are often unaware of how their beliefs of decline inevitably affect their behavior. But it's an involuntary response. It's a little bit embarrassing to admit, but I faint pretty regularly when I see blood, when I get a shot, when I'm watching a bloody movie, when I take a CPR class in college, when I twist my ankle, and any other time I see a wound, I faint. All true stories. It's an involuntary response. One time I asked my doctor what causes me to faint when I see a wound, and she said that it's my subconscious response to an event. When I see a wound, my subconscious tells my heart that I am bleeding, and my heart slows down so I don't bleed out. And I'm sure that I just butchered that, and that the true reality is much more complicated than that, but that's how she simplified the concept for me to understand. Christianity is the single greatest movement in the history of the world. And the idea made popular by the Left Behind books that this movement will be ended when Jesus raptures a small group of Christians before a tribulation is actually a very new idea to Christianity. It's definitely not what the great founders of the church believed. It actually rose in popularity when there was a spike in pessimism in the world. It was after World War I, the Great Depression, World War II, and the Cold War, and the popularity skyrocketed when the Left Behind books were released. In all, the series include 16 best-selling books. They sold 80 million books. To those who were familiar with the books when they were being released, it may seem that their influence has waned, but the influence of the books has just increased because the people who read the books have increased in their influence. So the books are fictional, but because the authors attempted to reflect their personal beliefs about what will happen in the writings, many readers trust the intellect and the biblical understanding of those authors. But did you know that only 1/3 of pastors believe in the Left Behind theology? The books portray a world that is spiraling downward in a satanic free fall. And that's dangerous because if Christians don't believe they can stop that free fall, then they may begin to see it as meaningless. If the world will soon be ruled by the Antichrist, then we'll be tempted to become separatists. We'll start establishing our own subcultures. And we have. Our temptation is to ignore our calling to be salt and light in the world. We have to learn how to re-engage with culture, to influence it. And I do think that every eschatological theory has sufficient theological capacity to provide room for optimism for the future of the church. And all holistic views of the Bible recognize that evil will not triumph eternally. But some doom Christianity to decline until that triumph is realized. Let's not allow that to be our habit. As the world experiences a widespread increase in anxiety, Christians hold the key to the hope the world so desperately needs. Hope and the positivity that it brings is central to Christian methods and purpose.